A few years ago, everyone wanted a minimalist life. Neutral interiors, capsule wardrobes, beige everything, clean lines, no visual noise. And now suddenly, everything is dopamine. Dopamine decor, dopamine fashion, dopamine cafes, bright color, strange shapes, playful objects, tiny emotional push case everywhere. And honestly, I understand why people want this. Because I think many of us are starving for joy. But lately I started wondering, are we actually becoming happier? Or are we just becoming better in consuming emotions? A few years ago, during one of my therapy sessions, my therapist asked me a question. She asked me to write down 20 things that bring me joy. And I could only think of 2, maybe 3. And I remember how shocking that felt. Not sad, not dramatic, just strange. Like somehow I was disconnected from my own sense of pleasure. I didn't know what made me feel alive anymore. And it took me months, maybe even a year, to slowly start noticing the tiny things again. Small things, textures, music, certain color, making coffee slowly in the morning, smooth fabric in my hands, walking home when weather feels soft. And honestly, I think that's why this whole dopamine aesthetic became that huge. Because people genuinely miss that feelings. And I don't think the desire itself is fake. I think people really do want more beauty, softness, playfulness, and emotions in their lives. But consumer culture is really good in redirecting those emotional needs into aesthetics. First we were sold minimalism, now we're being sold emotions. And sometimes it feels like we're searching for happiness through another object, another lamp, another outfit, another tiny reinvention of ourselves. And the weird part is, I can feel this working on me too, even when I understand it, even when I know exactly what's happening. I've been sewing for years. And at some point, sewing slowly stopped feeling light. Everything became more artistic, more ambitious, more complex. One garment could take months. Sometimes I could spend whole entire week making one tiny detail. And generally I loved it, but at some point creating started feeling heavy. Like every piece needed to justify its existence. And then something changed unexpectedly. I bought 1 meter of fabric after work, not because it was perfect. It was actually better options in the store, but this one had flowers and something about it feels romantic for 5 seconds, and I thought, okay, fine, I want this. And I gave myself a challenge. Make a skirt in 30 minutes. No perfectionism, no overthinking, no museum level craftsmanship, just make something. So I opened Pinterest on my way home, scroll a bit, found simple design, came home, to cut 2 stitches, skirt ready. And the strange thing is that I felt more joy making that simple skirt than I had in a long time. Not because skirt changed my life, and not because it completed my identity, but because for the first time in a while, creativity felt alive again. Light, fast, playful, humane. And the next day, I made a top. I built a pattern myself, just ruler, hulk, nothing complicated, and I loved it. Not only because how it looks, but how it felt. Comfortable, soft, easy to move in, no pressure, nothing digging into body, nothing performative. And suddenly I realized, maybe I wasn't actually craving things. Maybe I was craving participation. I think that's the difference I keep thinking about. There's a difference between consuming joy and creating it, between buying another aesthetic and actually interfacing with your own life. And honestly, I still love beautiful things. I love color, I love emotional objects, I love clothing and interior and visual atmosphere. I'm not against dopamine. I just don't want my entire life depend on consumption. And weirdly, making clothes quickly, imperfectly, with my own hands brought me closer to my myself than chasing perfect aesthetic ever did. Maybe the answer is not to remove dopamine from our life. Maybe the answer is to become more involved in creating things that bring us joy. For me, sewing stopped being about perfection and became a way to participate in my own life again.